What's going on, Bengals fans? Stone Shields on hand for another edition of Bengals Breakdown. And coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking Tee Higgins trade rumors. There's some people out there in the national media that kind of put together a trade involving, of course, Tee Higgins, the Bengals, and another football team. So we're going to be breaking that down as well as providing my own thoughts and opinions on that as well. And Bengals nickel, Mike Hilton, of course, is about to enter free agency. Really has been a mainstay on this defense over the past couple of years. Will Cincinnati be bringing him back, or will he be finding a new home for the 2025 season? We've got some Mike Hilton rumors to discuss on today's show as well. But before we get into that, reminder, we are doing a February like battle between our Ravens channel, Joey Peterson, and Ravens Rundown. As you can see, we have a slight edge here at this point, still a couple of weeks left in the month of February. We are trying to get them in this battle. The last time we did it, I believe, was in December, and we lost. So we're trying to get back on the right track here and win this like battle. But really appreciate if everyone could like our videos, something you should do for all of our videos here at Bengals Breakdown. It allows us to continue to create more videos. To help us out, hit that thumbs up icon if you have not done so already. All right, so the 33rd team came up with a trade scenario for the Bengals and Tee Higgins. Cincinnati, of course, has a massive decision to make, several massive decisions to make this offseason, most notably, of course, what to do with Tee Higgins. If they're going to tag him, keep him, tag him, trade him, extend him. I think that's what we're all hoping for. Obviously, several things at play here. I think a tag and trade certainly is something that is a possibility. And this is the idea that the 33rd team came up with. Cincinnati would receive a 2025 second-round pick from the Washington Commanders. Their second-round pick is the number 61 overall selection in exchange for Tee Higgins. And this is the trade that they proposed. Obviously, I think a lot of us Bengals fans are kind of hoping for a little bit more if, in fact, Tee Higgins does get dealt. Obviously, again, we were hoping he gets extended with this football team, but this is what the 33rd team came up with. Now let's get into some of the rationale here that they discussed in their article. This is Marcus Mosher, by the way. I'm not sure if I'm saying that last name correctly. If not, I'm terribly sorry, but this is what he wrote on the 33rd team's website. He said the Bengals don't operate like most front offices, and the thought of paying Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Tee Higgins, and Orlando Brown top-end contracts might be too much for them to handle on offense. If the Bengals do come to that conclusion, they do have options without letting Higgins leave without receiving some sort of compensation. The Bengals could franchise tag Higgins for a second time, which would guarantee him $26.17 million. That is still well below what he would make on the open market, but it would allow the Bengals to keep his rights. This isn't an ideal situation for the Bengals, but it at least gives them another pick inside the top 64 that they could use to rebuild the offensive line or the defense. It would also free up some cap space so they could afford to keep players like Trey, Hendrickson, and Mike Hilton on defense. This should be the worst-case scenario for the Bengals if they aren't able to agree to a long-term deal with Tee Higgins. We'll have my thoughts around the corner, but first, your guys' turn here with the pinned comment. Should the Bengals consider trading Tee Higgins? Is that something that they should be pondering this offseason? Is that an acceptable answer for you as a Bengals fan? Let me know in the comments section. Should the Bengals consider trading Tee Higgins? Type Y for yes or N for no. If that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. Take advantage of it. Get down in the comments. Let us know what you think. Now, look, some people around the local media here are kind of picking apart this piece here from the 33rd team and saying, several different things in which we'll get into as we progress through the show. But the first thing that I think is a fair point is the too much to handle point from Mosher, right? Cincinnati in the past has been in situations where they have cap space and they still have elected to mess it up and move on from guys, right? This is what they do as a franchise. So obviously they have money to spend on Tee Higgins, but that doesn't mean they're going to do it just because, they are the Cincinnati Bengals, and this, of course, is their track record. Let's get into this graphic here that I do want to touch on here on today's show. The Bengals are on the hook for the least amount of money for players in the entire league besides their quarterback. And you can see this here on this graphic. Cincinnati all the way down there at the bottom, not at the very bottom. Of course, they are paying Joe Burrow a considerable chunk of change. But beyond the quarterback, they are paying every other position the least amount in the league compared to all other football teams. In other words, they can pay everyone. So we will see if they are able to kind of adjust their ways, adapt to current times, understand, hey, we are in a situation where we can win now. We have to go out there and agree to deals with our star players. I also agree on the worst case scenario aspect of the piece from the 33rd team as well, right? Letting him walk in free agency isn't even a possible scenario. That would just be one of the dumbest things, probably the dumbest thing in the history of the National Football League. End of second round is probably the last possible, pick I am going for. Keep in mind, by the way, that a team that does trade for Tee Higgins does have to pay him, right? So a lot of times teams don't like to trade for guys that they have to pay immediately. That isn't always a good decision, a financial decision, a business decision for football teams, which is why you might not get as much in return as you would if you were just trading Tee Higgins, right? But I certainly think the end of the second round would probably be worst case scenario in terms of what you're looking for a return for Tee Higgins. Are you going to be able to get first rounder in return? Probably not, despite the fact that I think Tee Higgins is an elite wide receiver, and in my opinion, probably a certainly top 15, maybe even top 12 receiver in the National Football League. And again, tagging him guarantees him $26.17 million. Now, if he hits the open market, he's going to get at least 30, right? And Cincinnati, of course, tagged him last season. And it's kind of my way of thinking that if you're going to tag him anyway and hope to keep him and pay him this 26.17, why not just pay him $30 million a year? I'm sure he would be completely happy with that, and he would make that for 3 or 4 years. You keep the band together, and you keep it pushing. You keep Joe Burrow happy. You keep the fan base happy as well. It really ultimately comes down to Cincinnati as an organization needs to prove to their players and their fan base that they're not a clown show and that they are a serious organization in looking to win football games. Because we've broken it down. You have the money available to be able to go out there and bring back Tee Higgins and Trey Hendrickson and your other star players as well. It is just up to you as an organization to go out there and actually do it. We'll continue with our show here in a second, but do want to give a shout out to our friends over at Fanatics. Let you guys know that Bengals Sideline Hats are out now. Got several of these at my house. Love rocking these, absolutely. And by the way, this link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. Get you some off-season swag as a Cincinnati Bengals fan. Of course, the season ultimately is over, but still you can sit there, rock some Cincinnati Bengals gear this off season. Really encourage you guys to get over to Fanatics and check out some of these hats. Second part of our show here today is Mike Hilton conversation. PFF believes Mike Hilton would be an ideal target for the Pittsburgh Steelers in free agency. Hilton, of course, was drafted by the Steelers, spent the first 4 years of his career with the Pittsburgh Steelers before signing with the Bengals in free agency. Here's what Mason Cameron wrote for PFF in regards to bringing in Mike Hilton, if Mike Hilton going back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hilton may be reaching his age 31 season, but he hasn't slowed down yet. Still producing as one of the NFL's best slot defenders. The Steelers will need slot help after Cam Sutton's departure, and given that Pittsburgh drafted Hilton back in 2017, a reunion may be in the cards. Give you my thoughts here around the corner, but want to know from you guys right now, what do you want to do with Mike Hilton? This is another big decision that Cincinnati has to make this offseason. Type B for bring back or L for let leave. Let me know in the comments of today's video. So we spent some time here on Bengals Breakdown talking about Mike Hilton and the decision that Cincinnati has surrounding Mike Hilton. First things first, obviously a return to Pittsburgh would suck, right? If you had to face Mike Hilton 2 times a year, especially after, the fact that he's really been a cornerstone for your franchise over these past couple of seasons, your runs to the AFC Championship game. He certainly was a massive part of those runs, and he really is an elite tackler as well. And Cincinnati, of course, as a defense, really struggled in the tackling department. So bringing back Mike Hilton gives you some assurance that, hey, you'll be able to go out there and make some quality tackles. But he was off the field on third downs this past season. I don't think Mike Hilton necessarily liked that. You do have a lot of youth there in your cornerback room when you're talking about guys like certainly Josh Newton, who was a rookie last year, and you got young guys like Dax Hill, DJ Turner, and Cam Taylor-Britt as well, that hopefully can take steps forward in the right direction for your organization. Now, it is my way of thinking that Cincinnati should have at least one veteran corner back there. Now, whether it is Mike Hilton or somebody else, that remains to be seen. But Hilton is a guy, again, 31 years of age, certainly probably getting up there in terms of how, it's the twilight of his career, certainly, as a cornerback or nickel in this league. And he just can't run with the receivers like he once could, right? I think that was very much evident this past season, and I think there was a while last year where it was like, oh, Mike Hilton doesn't exactly look right. And there was a real resurgence at the end of the year, the past few weeks, certainly when Cincinnati went on that run to end the season, where he looked like he was getting back to his old form. So certainly, I would believe that Mike Hilton is a guy that you want to bring back if it is at the right price. If somebody out there like Pittsburgh or someone else is throwing him a good chunk of change, you might have to say, you know what, Mike, it's been a great run here in Cincinnati. We appreciate everything you've done. We appreciate all the winning that you've been a part of, but we're ready to probably move in a different direction as an organization because, of course, there are lots of people that the Bengals need to worry about paying. If Hilton's going to garner that big of a contract when he's 31 years of age, might be something you want to stay away from. We'll be here all off-season long, covering all Bengals trade rumors, free agency rumors, draft rumors, and more. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button right now. That's youtube.com/BengalsTV.